I didn't tell her right.
Hey, everybody, good to see you. So we'll have you, they'll have you pulled up. Thank you.
speaking, Mr. Williams?
I haven't heard from him.
Hey, sir. Real good, I hope you are.
How are y'all?
Good, I did.
Everybody's on time.
Didn't have no.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'd like to call the Board of Commissioners to order. Safety instructions, Ms. Evans.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to invite Ms. Natalie Best, our Deputy County Manager, to come to the podium and give us our safety instructions.
To provide for the safety of those attending this meeting, please listen to the following instructions in case of an emergency. First, please take a moment to note where your exits are. If an emergency arises that prompts us to evacuate, please exit this room in a quick and orderly manner through one of the 2 doors to your right, and then proceed to the nearest stairwell, directions to which are indicated by the exit signs. Once you exit the building, we ask that you safely cross Granville Street, which is the street that runs beside our building, to our parking lot to be safely away from the building. Our staff will help provide additional direction and assistance. In the case of a tornado warning, we ask that you exit this room into the hallway, where we will all remain until it is safe to exit. And in the event of an active shooter in the building, if there is an accessible escape path, please run and try to evacuate the premises. If you can't evacuate, please find a place to hide where you are less likely to be found and lock any doors that you can. And as a last resort, and only if your life is in imminent danger, please fight. Our staff will provide additional direction and assistance on what to do. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Reverend Hines, prayer, please.
Eternal God, our Father, we thank you for another day, another time to thank you and praise you, to honor you and glorify your name. We ask the forgiveness of our sins that we might rejoice and be glad. Have your way in our lives. Bless as we make decisions for this county, to make this county a better place in which to live. Bless us individually and then bless us collectively. Through Christ our Lord, we do pray. Amen.
You've received the minutes of previous meeting in your agenda package. Additions or corrections, if any? If none, please, motion.
So moved.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are adopted. Scheduled appointment.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We have with us tonight Ms. Stephanie Taylor, who is the Community Development Administrator with the City of Rocky Mount, who will present to you tonight the annual Consolidated Plan and Action Plan. And as she makes her way to the podium, you have a copy of her presentation at your seat.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Stephanie Taylor, Community Development Administrator for the City of Rocky Mount. I'm here to present the City of Rocky Mount and Down East Home Consortium Consolidated Plan for 2024 to 2026, and then a 2024 Annual Action Plan. Over the past couple of months, the City of Rocky Mount have worked with M&L Associates to create a draft. This plan serves as an application for funding from HUD for 2 federal programs, Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, and Home Investment Partnership, also known as HOME. So what is a 3-year consolidated plan, and why do we have to do it? It is required to receive Community Development Block Grant, known as CDBG, and Home Investment Partnership, Those are entitlement funds that the city receives on an annual basis. This plan that we're working on is for 3 years and covers the periods July 1st of 2024 to July 30th, 2027. The different components of the plan consist of a stakeholders consultation where we communicate to different stakeholders, public agencies, nonprofit service organizations, residents, homeless assistance organization, public housing authority. Also, a housing and homeless needs assessment is required, a housing market analysis, and a strategic plan that identifies local priorities. And also include annual action plans for proposed activities for the program year, July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. The current plan, the consolidated plan, also evaluates needs, set goals, estimate funding, and estimate outcome. The annual action plan identifies projects, assigned to goals, assign funding, and estimate outcomes as well. So who can we serve with the federal programs? So with CDBG and home funds, they're primarily used to serve persons whose income does not exceed 80% of the area median income, which is set and established by HUD. So for a one-person household, the maximum income an individual can make is $39,700. For a four-person household, the maximum assistance that someone can make is $56,650. And these increases are updated every year in June, and they can increase or decrease. So based off the community outreach that was done and the community comments, the top priority is affordable housing. So with affordable housing being the top priority, the eligible activities that we will focus on is housing rehab to help low-income families maintain their home, and down payment assistance to help make ownership more affordable. Public services is also a top priority. There is a need to provide shelter, supportive services for persons experiencing homelessness, and services that may help them secure housing affordable at their income level, and also reduce blighted conditions resulting from vacant, deteriorated structures in neighborhoods. Based on the community outreach and community comments, the goals of the consolidated plans is to provide decent housing by improving the quality and supply of affordable housing, provide a sustainable living environment, and increase the access to public services, reduce blighted conditions resulting from vacant and deteriorated structures in the neighborhood, and create more economic opportunities that promote financial self-sufficiency. Their priority needs. As a result of the goals and community outreach, priority needs will primarily focus on low to moderate income households and communities by increasing access to improved quality of affordable housing, eliminating slum blight influences, improving public facilities and infrastructure, expanding public services, economic development, and planning and administration. The home and CDBG estimates for 2024 are based on the 2023 allocations. 2024 allocations have not been released yet, so these are just estimates. Each year, the City of Rocky Mount receives CDBG and home funds from HUD, and the grants are non-competitive. We are an entitlement city, so these funds are based upon a formula that consists of the number of persons living in poverty, affordable housing supply, and housing characteristics. CDBG funds can only be used within the geographic boundaries of the City of Rocky Mount. So the estimate allocations for CDBG is $536,000, and for home is $464,000. So the proposed activity for CDBG expenditures are single-family housing rehab, home buyers assistance, Section 8 loan repayment, public service, and planning and administration. So the allocation for each categories, we call them the project. 20% would be allocated for administration, so we would allocate $107,000. The Section 108 loan is $92,000. The public service, there will be 15% allocated just to public services, which is an estimate of $80,000. We will allocate $125,000 to home buyers assistance, and homeowner rehab would be $131,000, which is a total of $536,000. And again, these numbers are based on the 2023 allocations. 2024 have not been released. For the home, these are just estimates as well, based off 2023. As I mentioned, 2024 have not been released. We will allocate 10% for program administration, which is allowed, which would total $46,000. There's a Rocky Mount Reserve for $218,000. This amount would go towards the reconciliation amount, back towards Nash and Edgecombe. There's an allocation for Edgecombe County for the scattered site housing rehab, $92,000, and then a participator townships is located in Nash County for $37,000. And those are the different townships that are listed. So the next steps in this process, right now we at the presentation for Edgecombe County. Next week we will have a presentation to the Rocky Mount City Council Committee of the Whole meeting, and then we will have a public hearing at the Rocky Mount City Council meeting, and then there will be a final presentation and adoption for April 29th, and then a submission of the plan will go to HUD for May 15th, and then the program year will begin July 1st. And if you have additional comments that you would like to provide as it relates to this plan, you can give me a call and send me an email, and we'll make sure these comments are included. That concludes my presentation.
Any questions, Ms. Taylor?
I do have one.
Go ahead, any questions? Go ahead.
Does this City of Rocky Mount program work in any conjunction with Nash Edgecombe Wilson Community Action, or it used to be formerly NEED? So I know they do some of the same thing.
Are you related to just the allocation for the home or community block grant?
For the home.
For the home, there's an agreement between the City of Rocky Mount and Edgecombe and Nash, so the only eligible activity is for the rehab. It's for homeowner rehab, that's for owner-occupied properties only.
Any other questions? Hearing none, thank you, Ms. Taylor. At this time, I'm going to ask for a motion to recess the Board of Commissioners meeting and convene as the Board of Equalization and Review.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by that voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We're now standing as the Board of Equalization and Review, and the Madam Clerk, Carol White, will administer our oath.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, to the Board of Commissioners, good evening, young manager, and all. Hi there. At this time, we'll have the swearing in of the Edgecombe County Board of Equalization and Review. If you would stand, all would stand. If you would swear on the Bible, if you would take the Bible with your left hand, raise your right hand. If you will affirm, just raise your right hand, please. And if you would repeat after me. When I say I, you just give your name. I do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I will support
that I will support
and maintain the Constitution
and maintain the Constitution
and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
and laws of North Carolina,
and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of my office
of my office
as a member of the Board
as a member of the Board
of Equalization
of Equalization
and Review
and Review
of Edgecombe County,
of Edgecombe County,
North Carolina,
North Carolina,
and that I will
and that I will
not allow my actions
not allow my actions
as a member of the Board
as a member of the Board
of Equalization
of Equalization
and Review
and Review
to be influenced
to be influenced
by personal
by personal
or political
or political
friendships
friendships
or obligation.
or obligations.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you so very kindly. Now, if you have your oath, if you will sign that and pass that to me, I will make sure that I will get it on file.
Put it in.
Do we have the,
I was having another.
there you go.
coming down.
Oh, I thought they would. You can put the date on there. Okay.
Thank you also, Council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to call to order the Board of Equalization and Review.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, we'll have Teresa Lewis, our tax administrator, to come and guide us through the rest of the business tonight for the Board of E&R.
Go right ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So you have in your agenda packet tonight, notice of decision letters, and there's 3 different letters that, have to be sometimes sent out by you guys. And we will need 3 separate actions on each one of them. That would be the regular letter as one, and it's addressed like that in your agenda. Discovery and late listing letter, and then an untimely real property appraiser letter. We can get motions on each one of those separate, please.
Is there a motion on the regular letter the regular letter to be sent out?
So moved. Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. And the next is discovery and late listing.
Yes, sir.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. The next is untimely real property appeals. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, all 3 letters are approved.
Thank y'all. Just to update on how many informal appeals we've had so far. We currently are scheduled with no Board of Equalization review because, of course, that opened today. And any appeals that are filed with our office after tonight will be considered Board of Equalization appeal, regardless if we have worked them informally or not. They all, at this point, have to come to the board.
Anything filed?
After tonight has to be worked formally, okay? Which is the same process particularly, but you guys would have to actually hear and vote on each one of those actions separately, okay? Currently, as of the date that I did the agenda for you guys, we had 217 appeals. We have now had 480 through 4 o'clock this afternoon. And we were, based off the other counties' appeals, they were receiving a 3% average. That's only putting us a little less than 1.5% currently for informally, so that's really good. And so we just need to hang in there and see how many we get for you guys to hear, and we'll determine if an additional daytime scheduled appeal hearing would need to be held. And that's typically needed because of the volume of appeals to be heard. The taxpayer's presentation of their evidence, my presentation of my evidence, it will need to be longer than a few minutes at a regular scheduled meeting. So I'll just keep you up to date if that's needed, and Mr. Evans can schedule that with y'all.
Anything coming in after tonight, which would be considered formal,
That's correct.
could we still have them work with you, although we have to act on it?
That's correct.
Okay.
They will still work with us.
Right.
But basically, instead of me making that change adjustment and sending it out for them to now appeal to you guys, I cannot make that change and adjustment without you guys approving that change.
That's what you
before it goes
recommended to
out.
us then?
That's
Okay.
right. Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Were the numbers unusually high?
No.
Not really?
Mhm.
That's good.
No.
Any other questions? Anything left in it? Thank you so much. Ms. Evans, you got an additional comment?
I would just say for the benefit of our citizens who may be here, our guests, those watching or may watch later, as you know, we, in an effort to be more informative to our citizens, this process is done annually, every 8 years. We do revaluation, which we're in that period now. The state statute says that the Board of Commissioners is to either appoint a Board of Equalization and Review, to hear those appeals, or they can carry that function themselves, which is what you do. That's why you've convened as that tonight, so it's not to be confusing for some who are not familiar with that. And as mentioned, if there are some appeals and the reason for that is clearly documented and is reasonable, our tax administrator can make those decisions in her office as an informal appeal, unless it's something that she says it should be this and they still disagree and they want to bring it to you, or, as she mentioned, any that come in after you've convened the Board of E&R tonight. So just want for those who may not be familiar with the process to understand why you've convened as the Board of Equalization and Review.
Is there any other business for us as the Board of Equalization and Review?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, just ask that you recess.
I would like to remind that the adjournment date is our next meeting as of May 4th at 6 p.m. Any appeals that need to be filed prior to that day at 5 o'clock. Anything after that would have to go through the appeal process for 2025.
Okay. Is there a motion to recess as Board of Equalization and Review and convene as the Board of Commissioners?
So moved.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, we're now standing as the Board of Commissioners. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we have on our general public petitions. If there's anybody here that would like to come and speak to the board, please come forward and state your name and address for the public record. Is there anybody to speak?
Mr. Chairman, we did have a Mr. Paul Autry who contacted us in advance of the meeting who wanted to be scheduled.
Please come forward. Please come forward. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members, please be assured I'm not like a bull in a china shop, okay, over this issue with the reevaluations. I'm just going to utilize my personal one here. My house was built in 2018, the end of November, I got CO to move in it. At that time, the house was valued at $207,000 and change. Following year, in 2019, it went up to $307,000, not even a year. And I understand the reason for that was because first evaluation was before it was completed. And I expected it to go up some, but not going from 207 to 307, $100,000 in a matter of about 3 months. Okay, so I appealed, I came over and I talked to the gentleman in the office up there, I don't remember his name, and concluded we made it at 283 and change, okay? So I've been living with that. That's $3,000 a year in taxes. We've been living with that. I'm a disabled veteran. I'm a retired Marine. Mr. Hines and I worked at the police department together for a while, and I left from there, okay? So being a retiree, as a lot are, our income is totally fixed, okay? The reevaluations came out, and mine went to $383,000, $100,000. That means my tax bill has increased 30% if it stays at that level, okay? And I have appealed it. And on that paper, I was asked what my feelings were, my valuation of my house. And I put on there, I said, I feel fortunate if I can get $325,000 under today's market, I would sell it. I would certainly want to sell it to the commissioners here for the 383, okay? And I'll go find me another place to live in, okay? Just a little joke. All right. So, in my opinion, that evaluation was totally out of sync with what reality is. As you know, most of you know, I'm a builder. I build houses. I got 2 right now. getting ready to break ground on footings, okay? So I stay up on top with property values, market values and all this stuff here on, primarily right here in North Carolina, but I also delve out into the other states, okay? Because if I can pick up my house here and take it to California and set it down, I'll get $3 million for it that quickly, okay? But back here, obviously, it's not going to happen, okay? So I did some comps, comparing my house with other ones locally. And these are the comps that I get. And I also went to the Realty.com and others that kind of price things out. Realty.com assessed my house at $320,600. Redfin, which is another one, has since January the value of my house has went down $2,000. Okay, Remax assessed it at $285,000. All right. Nearby comps on Temperance Hall, I found one at $247,000. On NC 111, I found one at $284,500. Over on Colonial Road, I found one at $262,999. Over on Sharp Point Road, and I'm not familiar with all these locations, was $268,000. And on Zillow, they're always high. They value my property at $349,944. Okay. Now, I don't know if you're very much aware, but the market on housing now is taking a nosedive. It's beginning to crash and tumble throughout the entire country. I do realize there's some areas that are still building crazily. Wake County, Chatham County, Johnson, and those areas there. But they've got a lot of industry there. Tech industries there. Okay. But I've taken notice around here in our community, case in point, Four Seasons. You probably have heard of them. Coming here, bought up the land, and created a development. Well, they started one over here, and their houses were about 1,200 square feet, maybe a little bit less than that. Started out selling those at $284,000. And the first dozen or so went like that. And then all of a sudden it started going down. They finally got rid of some of them at about $230,000. Okay, same house, same vicinity. Okay, so folks who went in there bought it at $284,000. They've already lost $54,000 right there, because the house is not worth that much now. All right, and all of you own property too. So I'm not just talking about me. I'm talking about every single Edgecombe County resident in here. I further did some checking to find out what our tax rate is versus the other 99 counties. Edgecombe County is third highest. Scotland County is the highest. I believe theirs was $1.05. Hyde County, I believe, was 99. Now, our tax rate is showing at 95. Well, I did my calculations on my current assessment, 283, divided what I was paying annually into it. That's $1.05 on 100 evaluation. So there's a disparity there. Okay, I don't know where it is. I looked on a website also, pull my property up, and it's showing I've got 3 structures in that on my property. I've got a workshop, I've got a house. I've yet to find that other structure. But I was told that that structure is being classified as my driveway and walkway. And that is valued at about $4,000 for my walkway and driveway. I don't know what formula is being used to figure that. But all I'm suggesting here is these evaluations were principally done back when the rates, sale prices were up here. Well, now they're down here, and they're continuing to tumble. When I say tumble, they continue to go down. Okay, so I'm just asking on behalf of all of you and every other Edgecombe County property owner to consider looking at our evaluations and get it off the 95 cents and get it down. I was trying to pull the sheet up to bring it with me. I'm thinking that Nash County was, I believe, 67 cents on 100. I believe Wilson County was 73 cents on 100, okay? And then others, I mean, it kind of fluctuates. I go all the way down to Carteret County where my son lives, his is 34 cents on 100. And his house is valued at over $500,000, because he's right there on the water almost, okay? So they got a 34 cent. Of course, they don't have the industry like we have up here, you know, we had QVC and some other places that are here as a tax base. You know, we don't have the industry over here like perhaps Wilson County does or Nash County does, but we're not poor, and obviously we're not rich, okay? So I'm just asking consideration on every property owner's thing here, is to examine all of this, look at what the current pricing is. Mine is not worth $383,000. No way under the sun could I ever get that price for my house. I would be fortunate if I got $325,000 for it. All right. The other thing is, if you're a property owner and you have rental properties, your rent for your renters is going to go up because they've got to offset the tax that has been added to them. Okay, and I know y'all going to go back and, you know, work on it, and I greatly appreciate it. I know that. But these evaluations, and I live in the back 9 subdivision. I may be running out of time, and I don't want to take much. Talk to other ones in my subdivision, the back 9. One house there that I built is valued over $600,000. That house ain't worth no $600,000. He might be able to get $400,000 to $425,000 if he's fortunate, but that's it. Everybody's in my little neighborhood is up $60,000 minimum and much higher. Okay, there ain't no way. If you were in the market for a house, and I told you I want $383,000 for my house, you go on the Edgecombe County GIS website, and then you look up my property card to see what my property is valued at, you're not going to buy my house. You're not going to sell it. If I offered it $325,000 and it's valued at $383,000, they're not going to buy it, all right? Because there's $60,000 in the hole before they sign the paperwork. So, just ask you to just consider that, and I know you will. Again, I'm not here as a bull in a china shop, I'm not. So, I appreciate your time here. And one parting note, and again, I'm not taking a shot at anybody, please don't misunderstand me. You remember the last time I spoke to you about me building, not being able to get services out of 2 of the departments here, okay? Planning and Inspections Department is fantastic, but they still only have one active full-time inspector. And Evan's doing an absolute marvelous job. Okay? The ladies there are doing absolutely superb jobs. Water Department, got persons in the office are absolutely wonderful. The employees that are out there on the road doing the work is wonderful. But you go in to make an application to get a tap on for water. In 2018, it was 30 to 45 work days, weather permitting. Here it is all these years later, 6 years later, it's the same thing. And you're not going to get a tap on before 45 days. Okay? And again, I'm not taking shots at anyone. There is improvement, and if I can be of any assistance in the committees or whatever, Mr. Webb has my phone number. I will be glad to give it to everybody, and I'm available for any committees or anything that you want. Okay? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless all of you.
Thank you so much.
Could I get your official address?
275 Golf Course Drive, Pine Tops. 27864.
Thank you.
like I said, if you need me, I'm one phone call from you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else to speak? Anybody?
Good evening, everybody. Carissa Danson, 127 Midway Lane, physical address Tarboro, mailing address P.O. Box 1391 Pine Tops. I love to say it, live 3 miles out of Pine Tops, 7 miles out of Tarboro. I like that. I come with interest in an article I read in the North Carolina, my Tarboro, North Carolina, a couple of weeks ago, about Edgecombe County, Texas, have long wished for lower taxes. And I'm glad the brother before me touched on that, so I don't have to go into detail because I won't really prepared. Mr. Thorne, can I ask you a question, your occupation?
I'm a banker.
Banker, okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, that's all I want. I stand here today to support his concerns, whatever you want to call it, in the retreat, talking about the taxes. Like I said, the brother before me just touched on it, so I don't have to go into that, but I have it posted on my webpage, the letter I'm talking about. And I also saw someone had made a comment about you all didn't have figured in the school situation. I'd be so glad when this, everybody call it demerger, whatever they want to call it, because I've been following it for 40 years. But I'd be glad when Edgecombe take over the schools and we get it going so we can see how that going to turn out. Because no doubt, it has been said in this room that it will happen and it will work itself out. So, but anyway, I do not think Mr. Thorne has not took in consideration of the school and whatever else from what I read. And as he stated that the taxes should be lowered, and I see where some of you may agree with him and some may not. I'm hoping my Commissioner, Mr. Boswell, I hope he is entertaining the discussion, because I am a long-time Democrat since 1981. I'm a precinct chair in 11-1, so I stay on top of this stuff, and I'm speaking for my precinct and anybody else. They ain't here, so that's their problem. If you're not going to lower the taxes, as it was stated in the article, well, let's do something with the money. I have been coming here for years complaining about the sheriff office getting more money, need cars, and the sheriff need more money because he's not at the rate that he the previous sheriff, and I was actively engaged when they was appointed, both and elected. So again, I just want to summarize that if you're not going to lower the taxes, then spend the money and help these folk that need to see the money. And on top of that, we'll be helping everybody when you lower the taxes. So I hope that discussion come up again at some time or another. And I hope I can be in the room. I couldn't be there that day. But I hope I'll be in the room the next time, because that sounds like an interesting conversation. And again, do what you need to do. Lower the taxes or spend the money on the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Is there anybody else to speak? If not, moving on to other business. Mr. Evans?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. You have a number of budget amendments before you for your consideration. Budget amendments numbers 1 through 9 do require your approval. The others are for information. If you'd like me to, I'm happy to walk through those. If you see,
Why don't we just,
have any questions? Happy to
based on the commissioner's review, do they have any questions of any of the 1 through 9? If not, is there a motion to approve? Second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, budget amendments are approved. Next.
You have before you for your consideration a recommended proclamation to recognize April, as National County Governments Month. This is something that is encouraged by the National Association of Counties. And Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, I'd like to invite our Deputy County Manager, Ms. Natalie Best, to come forward to read that proclamation.
Go right ahead.
Resolution to proclaim April 2024 as National County Government Month. Whereas the nation's 3,069 counties, parishes, and boroughs serving more than 330 million Americans provide essential services to create healthy, safe, and vibrant communities. And whereas counties provide public health services, administer justice, keep communities safe, foster economic opportunities, and much more. And whereas Edgecombe County and all counties take pride in our responsibility to protect and enhance the health, well-being, and safety of our residents in efficient and cost-effective ways. And whereas this year's National County Government Month theme is consistent with NACO President Mary Jo McGuire's focus of the year, Forward Together. And whereas each year since 1991, the National Association of Counties has encouraged counties across the country to elevate awareness of county responsibilities, programs, and services. And whereas this proclamation, along with activities we have planned throughout the month, will help raise awareness and appreciation for the critical role that we play for our citizens. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Edgecombe County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim April 2024 as National County Government Month and encourage all county officials, employees, schools, and residents to participate in county government celebration activities. This is the first day of April 2024.
Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All
I didn't get
opposed?
my question out, but I was gonna find out, what are we doing locally? I see what the National Association is doing across the country, but what is Edgecombe County planning?
Sure. If you'll look at the page just behind the proclamation itself, of course, the proclamation tonight and raising awareness tonight here at this public meeting. We will do some social media posts throughout the month to help to inform our citizens about the role of county government and the importance of our role. And we'll also submit a press release to our local press outlets to do the same.
Only problem I have with that is, too many of our citizens are not on social media. Too many of our folks are not even taking the local newspaper. We don't have a local newspaper. We have a paper that comes out 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes not on time. So that's why I was asking, was there anything else that we locally should be doing that could reach more of our citizens?
I'd be happy to, if you have any recommendations, or we certainly can discuss that with our staff.
If there's any recommendation from any of the board, please contact Mr. Evans on
Sure.
that. Did I carry the motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? Sorry about that. Next, Ms. Evans.
Next is regarding application for infrastructure funds. You previously adopted a resolution to authorize the submission of an application for grant funding available through the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. The 2023 General Water System Improvements application was not awarded in the first 4 rounds, but it is eligible to be resubmitted. We don't give up so easily around here, so therefore I recommend that you adopt the enclosed resolution as presented, which will authorize to resubmit.
Motion?
Second.
Question? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, is approved.
And Mr. Chairman, just for the record, I do want to say we were successful in at least 3 or 4 other applications, so this is one of the last holdouts.
Okay. Moving on.
Item D is regarding JCPC funding for next fiscal year. The Department of Public Safety is again making available funds for the juvenile crime prevention programs in FY25 in the amount of $255,122 to provide services to court-involved and at-risk youth. The JCPC Council at their last meeting voted to recommend funding per the attached spreadsheet. I recommend that you approve the allocation of these funds as presented, including $25,512 in local match to be included in the FY25 budget, and authorize me to execute agreements with each program. I will note that, as you'll see, that there are 7 programs that are recommended for funding. In addition to that, administrative funds, And as a note, that we had no new programs to request funding from us this year.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. Move on, Ms. Evans.
Item E, the Principal Board of Commissioners has voted to move forward with expanding their extraterritorial jurisdiction. As a note, the reason that they're doing that is because they annexed 53-acre parcel as well as another 88-acre parcel, so expanding their town limits proper, and therefore they can expand their ETJ from those new town limits. Before that can be implemented, the board must first adopt a resolution to agree with the ETJ expansion. I suggest that you first hold a public hearing to solicit citizens' feedback. I recommend you call for the public hearing on that matter to be held at your May 6th meeting.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. The public hearing is called. Next.
Item F is regarding amended resolution for our opioid settlement funds. As you are aware, counties are receiving additional funds from a second opioid settlement with 5 pharmacies, referred to as the second wave. The distribution process mirrors the original settlement agreement with counties. The total amounts we are slated to receive are displayed on the attached schedule. Presented for your consideration is a resolution to update our appropriation from both settlements. The total amount includes allocations from the first settlement wave, the amount received from the second wave, and the anticipated amount to be allocated later this fiscal year. I recommend that you approve the enclosed resolution as presented.
Motion? Second.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. So we have appointments now.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. First one is regarding a Trillium Advisory Board. As you'll recall, at your last meeting, you appointed Commissioner Harris to serve in that county commissioner slot. We do have another opening. We have a candidate for that, but I did not get to follow up with that candidate before tonight's meeting, but I will follow up. But we believe we'll meet the requirements of the program. I'll bring that to you at your next meeting.
Okay, Transportation Advisory Committee, Ms. Powell is present to serve, and she recommended for reappointment. Is there a motion to approve? Second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, she is recommended, and we do have an alternate, a new.
Yes, sir.
There is-
For the commissioner seat. It could be another commissioner as the alternate.
In case she does not make it.
That's correct.
Okay, is anybody else would like to be alternate?
I'll do it.
You do it? Well, do we need to approve her?
Yes, sir.
Is a motion to approve Ms. Harris as the alternate for that position?
Motion.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, she is approved. Go ahead, Ms. Evans.
Next is regarding what we're calling our Get Off the List Advisory Boards. As you'll recall, at your last meeting, you appointed the structure for an advisory board for each of our 4 focus areas. And our focus areas in our efforts to improve the future of our county and get off the list, we call it, they are affordable housing, health equity, youth and families, and education and workforce development. So you approved the structure and slated seats for each of those 4 advisory boards at your last meeting. After that meeting, we went to work with recruiting members. We reached out to people who had attended some of our meetings regarding this to solicit their interest. We got a lot of feedback from that. We also directly recruited some members to fill some seats. You'll see that not every spot is their recommendation tonight, and we'll certainly bring back future recommendation, and if you don't have one tonight. I will say there's an updated list at your seat. There were a couple of slots that were added since your agenda packet went out. I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, that you take these appointments separately, the first being the Health Equity Advisory Board.
Is there a motion? Do we need to read the names?
I'd be happy to if you like.
Go ahead and read them.
So the recommended appointees for the elected official seat is Reverend Richard Joyner, who's a councilman with the city of Rocky Mount. Nonprofit, one nonprofit with public health mission, Mr. James Mercer, who's the executive director of the Mercer Foundation. The second nonprofit with public health mission is Carrie Green, who's the director of communications with Carolina Family Health Center. We're familiar with their clinic in Princeville, Freedom Hill. For the third nonprofit public health mission is Savannah Junkins, who's a physician assistant and director of integrated behavioral health, also with Carolina Family Health Centers. We do not have a recommendation tonight for a Human Services Board representative. For private healthcare provider, Ms. Katisha Jones, who is community health liaison, she is with Trillium. Private healthcare provider, Kaya Tyson, who's a manager of communication grants and special projects with ECU Health. The Parks and Recreation representative, I will hold a recommendation for that. That will be our new Parks and Recreation director, and I'll be making an announcement to you about that shortly. For an at-large seat, Ms. Natima Drummond, who's a youth and adult FNF educator with Cooperative Extension. Crystal Wimes Anderson, who's a nurse, citizen, and nonprofit representative. Third at-large seat is Doris Howington, executive director of the Wright Center. And the fourth at-large seat is Dalton Barrett, our community paramedic, of course, is a staff member.
Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, they are approved. Next.
Thank you. Next is for our Affordable and Safe Housing Advisory Board. Currently do not have a recommendation for the elected official.
Is there anybody here who
I
like
would like to work on that one. That affordable
put Ms.
housing.
Powell in there?
All right, thank you, Ms. Powell. For the first nonprofit with a housing mission, Ms. Joyce Dickens, who's president and CEO of Rocky Mount Edgecombe Community Development Corporation. The second nonprofit with a housing mission, Kelvin Macklin, who's the executive director of Rocky Mount Housing Authority. A nonprofit that addresses homelessness, Linda Brinson, who's the executive director of United Community Ministries. A private housing developer is Mr. Charles Robertson, who's owner of a private housing development business. We do have 3 slots for a nonprofit provider of housing-related services that we do not have recommendations for tonight.
Also, Mr. Autry seemed to be interested in serving in something. Is there anything here would fit him?
Sure. He could serve as an at-large seat member.
Contact him and see if he would.
Okay.
See, contact him. We don't want to approve him tonight. Let's contact him.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All right. That's a good suggestion. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first at-large seat is Teresa Austin Stokes, who's Community Engagement Coordinator of Rocky Mount OIC. The second at-large seat is Tiara Norwood, who's Director of Community and Economic Development for Freedom Organization. And then there are 2 other at-large seats. I will contact Mr. Autry to see if he's interested in one of those at-large seats.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, they are approved. Next.
For our Youth and Families Advisory Board, we have a recommendation is for the elected official, Ms. Delane Bryant, who's the mayor of the town of Canita. Edgecombe County Public Schools representative, Dr. Bryan, is going to recommend a staff member of his to serve in that slot. You'll see he's slated to serve over on our Education Workforce Development. So I'll bring that to you at your next meeting. Representing our DSS, Ms. Betty Battle, our director. Our health department, Ms. Michelle Etheridge, our health director. First youth representative is Jalea Knight, who's a student at Edgecombe County Schools. We have a second youth slot that is open. For a nonprofit provider of services to youth and families, Dania Simmons, who's a Ready Community Specialist with Down East Partnership for Children. Second nonprofit provider of services to youth and family is Bianca Davis, a board member, Historic Edgemont Community Association. First at-large is Dr. Glenda Knight, town manager, town of Princeville. Second at-large is Graham Palmer, who is Director of Systems and Innovation and Policy with the Rural Opportunity Institute. Third at-large is Mr. Curtis Knight. Most people know him as Kente Knight. He's a recreational coordinator with the town of Tarboro. He's also chairman of our Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. And finally, Mr. Ron Green, the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club of the Tar River region.
Any motion to approve?
So moved.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, they are approved.
And the last one is Education and Workforce Development. The elected official recommended is Mr. Bobby Jones, who's the mayor of the town of Princeville. Edgecombe Public School representatives, Dr. Andrew Bryan, our superintendent. A Turning Point Workforce Development Board representative, Ms. Carissa Rudd, the business services director. Edgecombe Community College representatives, Dr. Greg McLeod, president of the community college. We do have both a small employer and a larger employer slot that is available if you know someone who might be interested. First nonprofit provider of education workforce services is Ms. Pam Gould, who is the executive director of STEP, which is the Strategic Twin Counties Educational Partnership. The second nonprofit provider of education workforce services, Mr. Andrew Berry, assistant head of schools, International Montessori School. He lives in Rocky Mount. First at-large seat is Amy Robinette, who's the Career and Technical Education Director for the Northeast Carolina Prep School. Second is Mr. Vincent Wooten, Senior Manager of IBM Corporation. The third is Kara Sechi, who's the co-founder of Moss Kids Book Project, and we have one at-large seat available there.
Motion to approve? Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, they are approved.
Thank you for that. That's a really big step for that effort. All the folks I've had a chance to talk to are very eager to serve and interested in what we're doing. Again, if you have any recommendations for any of the seats we did not fill tonight, let me know. I'll follow up with Mr. Autry. Our goal is to try to have our first meeting of each of the 4 advisory boards in May.
Moving on, after list and release for review and approval, anything to be brought to our attention?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman. Happy to answer any questions.
Is there a
that you
motion for approval?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Contract for review, Mr. Evans.
You have a Paytel Communications Incorporated. This is a no-cost contract, does not require appropriation of funds for us. This is to extend the term for an existing contract for the sheriff's office. And the county's actually paid a commission for the revenues they generate for that service. Second is change order number 4 for TA Loving Company. This increases the contract for our Water and Sewer District 6 infrastructure project by $15,000 and some change there. Change is due to some additional work not in the original scope. The third is with Weaver Asphalt and Maintenance Company, a contract for $86,500. This is for redoing our lots here at the County Administration Building and Human Services Building. You'll recall that this is budgeted in our current year's capital improvement budgeted projects. You have a fourth one there is for your information. It is below the $50,000 limit for my approval, but for your awareness, it's a contract with Adams Carpet and Wallpaper. This is for replacement of worn carpet in multiple offices on the first floor of the County Administration Building here. These funds are also already budgeted in our CIP. I do have 2 additional items I'd like for you to consider. The first, and you have a copy at your seat, the first is the approval of a purchase contract with Fouts Brothers. This is for a mini pumper in fire apparatus. This is using the funds that we received from state allocation last year to purchase 2 fire trucks or related equipment and other things to improve fire protection, particularly at Kingsborough Industrial Park. This is budgeted, and again, this is through a state grant that we have received. The last one will be for
$326,000.
yes, sir, $326,386. That was bid out, and this is the lowest bidder. So those are 4 contracts that need your approval. The last one is approval for sole source vendor, but I'll come back to that after you can take consideration of those 4
Let
contracts.
me ask any questions before we get a motion. If not, is there a motion to approve? Second?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, they are approved. Now, what,
The last one is, and there's a copy of this at your seat as well, this is regarding a sole source purchase, which does require your approval. This is with a company called One Box. This would be to purchase kits for Narcan training. As you know, our opioid program is distributing Narcan in the community that helps to save lives of folks that have overdosed. And so these are kits to use to distribute and to train. The total amount is only $4,000, but because this is the only vendor that we can purchase this particular item from, it does require your approval as a sole source vendor.
motion?
So moved.
Question? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, it is approved.
Thank you.
Move on. Departmental reports for review. You've got water and sewer update. Moving on ahead. Go ahead, Ms. Evans.
Yes, sir. I'm happy to answer the question if you have any regarding a water and sewer report. I would like to invite Ms. Linda Barfield, our CFO, to come forward to present to you our monthly financial report.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
It's always an honor to stand before you. Tonight, I'm excited to announce that our financial report shows that we're doing well financially across the board. Despite the majority of our programs being reimbursable, we've achieved positive financial performance in our general fund. The general fund revenues exceed our expenditures by almost 6.5%. And adding or contributing to that is our collections of ad valorem taxes. This report shows that we have collected about 92% of our budgeted amount, and with continued progress, we're on track to meet our budget by year end. I'd also mention that sales tax remains strong with collections on track to exceed our current budgeted amount, and also those that were collected last fiscal year. Moving into our water and sewer fund, revenues in the water and sewer fund exceed expenditures by 28%. It shows that we're continuing to manage our resources well within that fund. Also happy to announce that again that the solid waste fund shows positive financial performance with revenues exceeding expenditures by 11%. In summary, these positive results indicate that we're managing our finances effectively.
Any questions? Thank you so much.
Next is, you'll see there's information in your packet regarding the naloxone dispensing machine that was purchased with opioid settlement funds, and there's a picture as well. This is at the detention center, and so inmates who will exiting the detention center who may have an issue with that, who need to have a Narcan kit to carry home with them. Heaven forbid that they need that, but we want to make sure the people that may need it will have it right there with them. So this is a unique approach to this, and I commend our staff for this idea. And you all have, certainly Mr. Brown is here tonight, and Dalton is here as well. So they and the team deserve credit for that. So just wanted you to be aware of that.
I did have kind of a question, comment about. Just like when they were doing with giving folks clean needles, I have the same anxiety with this. It's saying, you're getting out of jail, you're going home, just in case you do this again. I mean, I don't want it to be seen as encouragement to continue a bad habit. And that's what's been expressed to me. And just that snippet on the news today got that. Okay, so.
I understand, and certainly I think Antoine and more so Dalton may have some thoughts on that, and I certainly understand how that thought could come to mind, but the reality is that oftentimes the folks, not just in our county, but across this nation, that when they overdose and pass away from it, oftentimes it's not their first time having overdose. And so every opportunity that we get to give them one more shot so that they can get the treatment that they need, because again, it's not just, we don't want to contribute to a revolving door. What we want is an opportunity for them to live one more day so that they can meet that young man back there in that white shirt and others, across the system.
And this saves lives.
Yes.
And I'm aware of quite a few experiences where this has saved lives. So, it might be some inappropriate use at some point, but the fact that it saves lives says that we're supporting a good program.
So are we doing follow-through? That's the question. You're giving it to them, but are we doing follow-through with those individuals that leave with it?
Yes, and if it's okay, I'd like to invite Dalton to come up. Dalton, you want to speak to that?
And he looks so young on the TV today.
Yeah, so we did have a WRAL article that come out at 5:30. I know most of you guys were probably up here, but it's on that particular machine. And really the statistic that we're trying to address with this machine is somebody who suffers from opioid use disorder, upon 2 weeks post-release from incarceration, they're 40 times more likely to die than anybody else in the room. Not 40%, but 40 times. And like Mr. Evans said, we're just trying to keep them alive to where we can have a positive interaction with them, get them to the treatment that they need, and then hopefully save their children's life, because as we know, substance use, it's not just something that affects one person, it affects pretty much everybody in the room. So we're just trying to put more tools in the hands of this resilient community to hopefully, keep people alive and just to fight this disease known as addiction.
So who will monitor the machines?
So I'm the one that comes in and takes inventory and kind of sees how the machine is being utilized. But it is under camera. It's at the, I guess like the Sally Port of the jail. We actually have some programming coming up with inmates to do some prevention with them. So this Narcan machine was really kind of some stigma reduction, I feel like, kind of, it's a conversation topic, the way we can get in there and really do the work that truly needs to be done with trying to, prevent these things from happening in the first place. So I think this is just a good shoe in the door, if that makes sense. Good conversation topic.
I think it's good for us to try anything different. If it doesn't work, we take it out. Okay. If it doesn't work, we'll take it out.
And you can get Narcan over the counter, but it is about $45 a dose, or $45 for a pack of it, and it comes 2 doses in that pack. So you can get it anywhere. We're just trying to make it make sense to the people who need it the most.
Any more comments, questions? Thank you so much. Moving on to your report.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. So, continuing what we started last month with our open door to Edgecombe series, if you will. And so tonight we wanted to just take it one more step to help better inform those who are here tonight, those who may watch later, so that we all, hopefully you all can understand a little bit better about how we are organized as a county and how we operate. So again, the goal of this series is to educate and inform on the fundamental structure and functions of Edgecombe County government. We believe that our residents, that the better our residents understand our organization, the better our organization can serve our residents. Just as a reminder, our vision statement is a two-sided vision statement. One side faces our citizens, and that side of our vision says that Edgecombe County is a historic place that values its citizens and natural resources and creates opportunities where people are proud to live, work, and play for generations to come. Then the other side of that faces inward to us as an organization, that is who we have to be as an organization to help our county achieve that vision. It says that Edgecombe County values its employees so that it can be an organization committed to providing exceptional services to our citizens through an innovative, passionate, and creative team devoted to excellence, integrity, transparency, and transparency for the continued growth of our county and staff. So as I mentioned last month, tonight I want to talk about the basics of our budget. So we're certainly not going to dive into all the details, and there's certainly lots of details we'll cover. You'll hear more about our proposed budget for next fiscal year in coming meetings. But I shared this slide last month, and this slide basically shows the wide array of services that we provide as units of local government. You'll see there are a number of services. I know you can't read that from where you're sitting, but just to give you an idea, there are lots of services that we provide. Some of those we overlap with our municipalities, some we overlap with the state, some we overlap with both of them. But we provide a wide array of services to our residents. This is just a more summary way to look at the broad categories of the services that we provide, and they include health and human services, infrastructure, public amenities, public safety, zoning and development, and education. So in order to provide those services that not only are we required to provide by our state and federal laws, but also that are needed by our citizens every single day, it requires an organization. It requires a structure for us to be able to do that. Those of you who were here last month, you saw this last month as well. This is our organizational chart. Just shows you the broad structure of our organization. You'll see that we have 18 departments. 2 of those are led by elected officials, our sheriff and register of deeds. Of course, you see the Board of Commissioners there at the top, our clerk to the board, who also serves as my executive assistant, county attorney who's seated here, and then it goes on down in the organization. The way we look at it is that our board serves as the foundation for our organization. These 7 elected officials are our foundation. And then down through the rest of that organizational chart is the framework for our organization. But really looking at this only shows you part of our organization. There should be another piece that comes to that. But really below all of that are the 500 or so full-time and part-time staff who are, as they say, where the rubber meets the road, who are out there working with our citizens, providing services every single day. And so that's where the real important work happens, so that we can provide all those services I showed you just a minute ago. And so, of course, that if you think of that as a machine to provide those services, that machine requires an engine, and that's the engine of money. It takes money to operate. So just some broad perspective on the county's budget. As it was mentioned earlier tonight, the county's tax rate is 95 cents per 100 in value. And the gentleman actually helped to inform me tonight, and let us know that we're not second highest anymore, we're third, getting off the list, right? Of course, that's always subject to change, as counties, are subject to change their property tax rates every year. I wish he was still here, and I will certainly tell him this when I call him, but I do want to point out, he mentioned there seemed to, what he thought was a discrepancy between our tax rate, 95 cents, and what he's actually being charged. 95 cents just ad valorem. On top of that is a fire tax. That's calculated separately from that 95 cent, and it depends on which fire district we live in as to what that fire tax is. But currently our tax rate is 95 cents per $100 in value. Not considering revaluation, and basically these are numbers that I presented when at the start of this fiscal year. 1 cent of that 95 generates about $352,000. The total general fund budget for the county is a little over $74 million. Now, sometimes we get grant funds, sometimes we get special funds like ARPA and things like that that are above and beyond that, but our general operating budget is a little over $74 million. And so if you think of that, again, as a machine, there are some counties, because the county is bigger, they have a bigger machine, right? And so, with a bigger engine, so they have a bigger budget. Some counties, smaller machine, smaller engine, smaller budget. We are about a mid-sized county. We're somewhere in the middle. Our largest revenue source is ad valorem taxes. A little over $33 million is our budget for the current year. Ad valorem taxes being taxes on your property, your house, cars, boats, things like that, annual taxes that you pay on those things. And so that's our budget for current year. Our largest expenditure is personnel, and we'll get into that, and this is really just a part of that. You'll see the full and complete number in just a minute. So let's talk about revenues for a second. Again, these are revenues by source, and I know it's hard to see, but that largest piece of the pie there, that's ad valorem tax. You'll see it's right at 47% of our revenue comes from those annual property taxes. The second largest slice of that pie is sales tax there, and the third largest is actually revenue that's brought in through our Department of Social Services. But by far, ad valorem tax and sales tax are two largest streams of revenue. And here is, you'll see by revenue type, again, ad valorem tax, sales tax, other taxes. We get some funds from both state and federal resources that are what's called unrestricted. That is, they come and we can put them in general fund and use that. We don't get much of that. Most of what we get from state and federal sources come in that next category, restricted intergovernmental revenues, and they're restricted. We have to spend them for specific purposes. For example, lottery funds is restricted for use of funding our schools. And a number of other revenue lines. I won't go through all of those. I will point out, this can be a little misleading, but that's just a general category, investment earnings. We don't invest in stocks or mutual funds or anything like that. But that category for us would be interest that we receive from our money in the accounts that we have. And so we have to budget for that as well. So again, total general fund revenue is a little over $74 million. So expenditures. Largest, and these are expenditures by category. Again, my apologies, it might be hard to see that. You'll see the largest slice of that expenditure pie is what's called public safety. So that would be sheriff, detention center, E911 communications, EMS, monies given to our fire departments. So that is the largest piece of that expenditure pie. The second largest is there, and that's education. And then you'll see other categories there, some large and some very small. But without a doubt, our greatest asset of that machine that we have to provide those services to our citizens, the greatest asset as well as our greatest expense, those are our team members, our staff. And so you'll see here, these are personnel lines here, just salaries, FICA, overtime, so on and so forth, all the way down. Total personnel cost is over $35 million. So almost half of our budget goes to people. But that makes sense. To provide the services that we provide, it requires us to have people to do that. And I want to just, add here for a minute. I know that between now and the time that we present the budget for consideration for next fiscal year with our tax rate and reval, in that equation, oftentimes, it's said to us, whether it be us or state government or federal government, you need to cut your budget. But it's very difficult for us to cut our budget when we need the people to provide those services. It's very difficult. If we cut our budget, this is where we have to do it primarily. And if that's where we cut our budget, then that means it will without a doubt affect the provision of our services. Now, that does not mean that we don't attempt to do that. We always look for efficiencies. We always look to where if there's a vacant position, if we don't have to fill it, let's not fill it. If we can consolidate work, we do that as much as possible. But we sort of been chipping away at that in bits and pieces over the years. So relatively so, we're somewhat bare bones as it relates to being able to cut more positions. In fact, I have some of our department heads in here tonight and others who would say, I need more people, send me more people because of the work that we have to do. So We certainly will be as efficient with with your dollars, the dollars of our citizens, as we possibly can, and be mindful of that. I just want to say that it is very difficult for a county government to cut the budget without affecting the provision of our services. Another large category for our budget is what we call outside agency funding. We provide funding to a number of agencies and organizations that exist outside of us who provide various services. Now, some of those outside agencies, or most of those outside agencies, we are required to provide them funding. In fact, this year's budget is to the tune of a little over $14 million. These would be like the school system. We're required by state statute to provide funding for our schools. We're required to provide funding for our community college. And some of those we are required not necessarily by state law, but by some interagency agreement. For example, we support 2 libraries. We support the Braswell Library in Rocky Mount. We have an agreement that was executed a number of years ago between Edgecombe County, the City of Rocky Mount, and Nash County to say this library here in Rocky Mount is important to us. We're going to agree that we're going to jointly fund this library. So that is where it's not statutorily required, but it is required by an agreement that's been previously approved. We also provide funding jointly with the town of Tarboro for Edgecombe Memorial Library here in Tarboro. So that's an example of where we're not statutorily required, but we are required by some previous agreement that we have. We do have some discretionary, let me back up and say, so though we are required to provide funding, it does not say how much funding necessarily. So, for example, our board knows that they will have to make a funding decision on how much to provide for our schools every budget year. But they have some decisions to make as to how much funding that they provide. But then we have what we call discretionary funding, and that is our board gets to choose whether we fund it or not and how much we fund. And you'll see it's a relatively small amount. That in current year's budget is a little over $130,000. Most of them are relatively small projects or programs through some nonprofit that our board believes is important for us to partner with them and provide some funding. Just to compare, for this current fiscal year, the total request from all of the outside agencies, both the ones we are required to fund and those that is discretionary, the total request was almost $21 million. So our board has to make some very difficult decisions on what to fund, how much to fund. And it's not easy to do. And my hat goes off to the board in making those decisions every year. I will say that the largest outside agency that's recipient of funds from the county is Edgecombe County Public Schools with almost $8.9 million in funding that we provide. Just so you can see, and I certainly don't expect you to be able to read that, but that's the entire list of all of the outside agencies that we fund. If you were able to see that, you'll see that it ranges from the most at $8.9 million Edgecombe Schools, and then there's one, I can't remember the name, we fund $500. So it ranges greatly from just a little bit to a whole lot. Also, one of our biggest expenditures for county is capital improvement, either a capital construction or renovation or capital purchases. And so that the 3 categories for that are equipment. That's what we originally budgeted for this current fiscal year for equipment in various departments for different things. For vehicles, that was the original budget. I will say that since then the board did approve allocating a little over $1 million additional under the vehicles category, and that was to purchase 18 new vehicles for our sheriff for his office. And then buildings and grounds, that was the original budget for buildings and grounds. So those are the 3 categories. So we have to purchase equipment, we have to do renovations on our buildings. We own, the county owns around 14 buildings that we're responsible for. So we have to keep putting money back in, reinvesting in those physical plants to make sure that we maintain those buildings. Then outside of the general operations of the county, they're what's referred to as enterprise funds. These are things that a county is not required to do, but a county can choose to do it. But if a county chooses to do these enterprise funds, these individually are supposed to generate enough revenue to cover their expenses. And Edgecombe County's two enterprise funds are our water and sewer utilities and our solid waste. And I must say, I had a corrected slide on this. I forgot to send it to IT. Actually, those numbers should be reversed. Water and sewer is almost $6 million, and solid waste is $3.5 million. But we provide water and sewer utilities. We've got over 5,000 utility customers. We provide that service. We collect fees from that, and we put that back in to provide that service. In solid waste, we charge a solid waste fee to all property owners that comes on your tax bill as well. Then beyond that, for what's not covered with that, we charge tipping fees at our landfill. And so those are enterprise funds. Those are two very important things, services that we provide. We're not required to provide it, but we're happy to do that because it's important to our citizens. So those are the sort of, I know it's a lot to cover in just a few minutes, but I just want to give sort of a broad sweep as to the basics of our budget here at the county. Next time I'll talk about our facilities. That's a very important thing that we are responsible for, and those are our county facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Yes, sir. So next, under manager's report, I want to talk about a plan to address roadside litter. I know this is something has been brought to your attention, folks that have come to this board to talk about concerns about litter in the county. You hear it out there from your constituents. You had a good conversation about this at your recent retreat, and asked that I take a look at a plan to address that. So I want to share with you that plan. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about sort of the volume of what we see. Gloria Mosley, who's our solid waste director, even before she became director, this was something that was very important to her. And back in 2014, she created a code in their system so that when somebody does maybe a youth group does a litter cleanup, or our staff does it, or they do something with Keep America Beautiful, when that roadside litter is collected, they can track that and as it comes in, and they label it as such. So going back to 2014, since then, across those scales has come over 680 tons of roadside litter. 680 tons of roadside litter. Now, I do want to just add this to say, I know it's an issue in Edgecombe County, but I think it's important to say Edgecombe County is not the only county with this issue. But we're going to work hard to do something about it. Just last fiscal year, across those scales came 102 tons of roadside litter collected from various sources. So there are four things in particular that we're going to do to address that, hopefully to improve on that. The first is we're just going to continue to encourage our citizens and residents in the county not to litter. We will do that, continue to do that via our Keep Edgecombe Clean and Green campaign that you may have seen before. We will do that in various ways just to encourage people not to litter. It's one thing to put mechanisms in place to pick it up, but it will go right back out there if folks are not more mindful about not littering. So we'll continue to do that. Secondly, Gloria and her staff, they sometimes work with the local Keep America Beautiful, sometimes outside of community sweeps that they organize, but we organize cleanups in the county. Usually it's done on a Saturday, and they do that 2 or 3 times a year. So one of the things that she is going to do, and there's a flyer in your agenda packet, but we're going to increase the frequency of those, and there will be one once a month. So we will sponsor that. Gloria and/or her staff will meet folks to provide the supplies that they need, whether it's a church group, Boy Scout group, just interested folks wanting to show up, will help to, so we'll be doing those county-sponsored community litter pickups on a more regular basis, now on a monthly basis. Also, we will, staff is going to sort of ramp up reminding our patrons at our convenience sites and at our landfill on Colonial Road, including private and municipal folks who are picking up trash trucks and what have you, to make sure that they cover their load when they come see us and make sure that there's no loose trash in those trucks when they head out. So that's important. You know, stuff blows out and folks are just driving, looking ahead as they should, and don't have a clue how much is coming out of the back of those trucks sometimes. And fourth, and this is the most aggressive one, I would say, is my plan is to hire 2 part-time staff in solid waste, and that's all that they will do, is to go around and to do litter cleanup around the county. They will both target our usual suspects like Colonial Road. There's all the traffic that's coming and going and coming from the landfill, so they will target that. They will target any other hot spots that we see. And then if we get calls that say, hey, here's a road out here that looks really bad, somebody needs to do something about it, they will go out there. So it'll be, 20 hours a week per person. They will work as a team. We'll ask them to track where they clean up and how much is picked up, and we'll provide a report to you on a monthly basis regarding that. Right now, I believe we have enough lapsed salary in the solid waste department. We don't need to do any addition to that budget. We will look at building that into the budget for next year. So those are the 4 things that we're planning to do to address that.
The cleanup campaign. Some organizations that I'm in or know of may want to. Is that the same thing as the Adopt the Highway thing, or is it different?
Keep America Beautiful.
Well,
Keep America.
there is the Adopt a Highway program, and that's where you get the sign and it says,
Yeah,
for such
that-
and such, and you clean up that stretch of road. Certainly people can still do that, or if you just have an area that you want to say, we just want to get together and clean up, you can contact Gloria.
Okay,
We'll
so that's what my question.
Yes,
Who do
ma'am.
you contact to get the bags and all that
Gloria.
stuff?
Yes,
Gloria.
ma'am.
So the Adopt the Highway program, they adopt the highway, but that's all they do.
They put the name down
They're really
there.
not cleaning those highways, okay?
But if we call Gloria, we could get bags.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We'll give you the bags, we'll loan you the pickup sticks, the vest, gloves, and then they'll know where you're picking up, and you just leave the bags on the side of the road, and then our staff will come by later.
Great.
Also, if you want to do it on that designated Saturday, and I think the next one is next Saturday. If you want to do it on that Saturday, you can come out to Lowe's is where they will gather, give out the supplies, and if you have an area you know where you want to go, you can go there. If you say, I don't know where to go, they will say, hey, go to this area. So you can either do it on that designated Saturday as a part of that or outside of that.
Well, that helps us to help our community. Sure. We let them know. Okay.
I've already sent that flyer.
Good. And I will say I think it's a good experience for everybody, if you have never done it, to do it, to pick up, because if you've ever done it, first of all, once you get out, you realize how much is actually out there and the work that's involved to clean it up.
You will think about it when
You
you
will
see
think
it.
twice about even letting something flying out your
Throw something
window.
out
Yeah.
there. Absolutely.
But what do you do to people who see you out there cleaning up and they throw trash out there?
While you're out there cleaning up.
Beat 'em.
Well, I mean, you do, I was getting ready to say something funny, but I shouldn't say it. But there is a way, the state of North Carolina has, I think it's called SWAT a litter bug program, where if you see someone throwing litter out, if you can get their tag, you can anonymously go on their website, put in their tag, and honestly, I'm not sure what happens after that, but you.
That's right.
Yeah.
But you can do that. Yes, sir.
It's a shame. It's a shame that people don't care like
Yes,
they
it
used
is.
to.
Yes, it is.
It's just a crying shame.
I agree.
Okay.
I mean, you know, you go by a McDonald's sandwich and you can either eat it at McDonald's or take it home and do something. You don't just go out past a place and throw it out in the street.
Trash cans everywhere we go. Everywhere you stop, there's a trash can.
People just don't care.
Yes. Anything else?
Go right ahead.
You'll see there, you have our my major events and updates for the month, workforce development indicators, TDA's monthly financial report. I will note item F, North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, they put out data sets on a number of things, data that they gather and put in this format that I think is very helpful. I came across this one that I thought was interesting. You'll see it is North Carolina counties, agricultural land and farming, for example. It has all the counties listed. It shows that in Edgecombe County, there are over 145,000 acres of designated ag land and a total number of 243 farms. And you can see that in comparison with other counties. I want to talk about next, item G is the county's responsibilities regarding unclaimed bodies. I know that was a topic of discussion that came up recently, and I just want to make sure that you as a board, that you're fully aware how this works. Unfortunately, from time to time, a deceased person from the county, the body goes unclaimed, either that's noted at either at a hospital, morgue, or at a funeral home. In that case, after attempts to contact family members, and either family members can't be located or family members say, we just can't do it, in all Department of Social Services, there's an opportunity for counties to handle those unclaimed bodies through our Department of Social Services. It is a basic service that's provided. Basically, what we pay for is for the claiming of the body, the transport of the body by the funeral home or mortuary, and the cost of cremation. This is a service that is bidded out through our Department of Social Services every 2 or 3 years. Ms. Battle and her staff, and she's here tonight, and her staff, they go out and receive quotes from interested vendors and provide that service. Our current vendor is Jones Funerals and Cremations at a price of $800 per unclaimed body. Other bids, when it was bid out, just to compare the prices, range from $1,400 to a little over $2,500. So currently, Jones Funeral and Cremations is our designated vendor for that. I believe that recently there may have been some confusion. An article came out about another vendor who was inquiring about the cost of that. And I think what they were given was the cost that vendor charges, not, outside of the Department of Social Services. We are given apparently a discounted rate for that. And as I mentioned, that is $800. So, it's certainly, it's unfortunate that this type of service has to be provided. But just wanted you all to be aware of how that works through our Department of Social Services. And I want to say thank you to Ms. Battle and her staff for always doing a good job of managing out of, we saw big numbers up there for Department of Social Services, and it's a relatively small in the sense of the scope of how often this happens and the amount of money that's spent, but very important, and they do a good job of managing that as well as other things that they do.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
The article says that we paid a certain amount of money when we could have gotten it like $450. Have we investigated, is that a true figure? Well, you can't believe everything you read, but a lot of people do. So I wanted to make sure that we have at least investigated this company that claimed they could have done it for that amount versus what we paid.
Let me comment on it. It appears that they didn't bid on it. And if we have a contract, even if we could get it done for $450, we have a contract to do that. If that company wanted to bid the next time, they can, okay? But I don't think we're dealing with a contract, okay? And they bid it.
All of that information is left out of the article.
Well, most articles, there can be some mistakes in them, Okay,
One
okay,
side, okay.
or you get misquoted, or something of that nature, okay? So I think even when we read an article, we need to go back to the source of who said what.
I just want to make sure that we let that company know that when we go into the bid process again, feel free to, bid, so that it's understood that it's not that we just handpicked somebody. Okay.
Right. And as I mentioned, that was of those who responded to that bid at that time, was by what we have now is the lowest bid.
We can always find somebody cheaper to do anything that we bid it, once they understand what the cost of it is. I can always bid it lower if I know what the bid was.
Anything I left out, you feel like that clarified? I have in your packet recommended dates for upcoming meetings regarding preparation of our FY25 budget. We have the joint board meeting with Edgecombe School Board planned for April the 23rd, and the meeting at 6 p.m. We're looking at having dinner probably 5:30 before the meeting. I'll certainly remind you of that. For the next two are for the Budget Committee, proposing meeting May 2nd and May 9th for the first and second viewing of the budget as we formulated at that time on May 2nd and 9th at 4 p.m. The budget work session, that will be the full board. We normally have that during the day at 10 a.m. We're recommending that we have that on May 15th. Budget public hearing to be held at your June 3rd meeting, which will be at 6 p.m. As in the past, you don't normally adopt the budget that night. You give yourself the opportunity to get feedback from those who come to the public hearing, take that in consideration, and then call a second meeting in June to adopt the budget. And my recommendation would be that be on June 25th at 6 p.m.
The joint board meeting will be where? Location?
So, location to be
Edgecombe
determined.
County.
Yes, ma'am. Location to, will likely be in the auditorium is where we had it before, but we'll confirm that. The budget work session, we normally have that in conference room 260. And then, of course, your public hearing and the approval of the budget will be here in this room.
Is there anything you need us to approve?
No, sir. Just if there are any major conflicts of any of these, just let me know. Of course, we'd like to have everybody here, but certainly need to be able to have a quorum. Next is regarding an update on a broadband project. So first, I'm going to ask IT staff to pull up a map that I'm going to show you just right there. If you can expand that a little bit. So as you know, Brightspeed was awarded the GREAT grant for the county, received a $4 million grant from the state to expand broadband in Edgecombe County. What you see there in the blue lines, that is where they propose to use those funds to expand broadband. You'll see there on the west side of the county, in and around, coming out of Rocky Mount, north of there, coming out of Whitaker's, coming out of Tarboro, Princeville, and then south of us, in and around Pine Tops, Macclesfield area. So these are the areas, and you've seen this before. You'll remember a gentleman from Brightspeed came and we presented this to you. So this is the work that's going to be done with the GREAT grant. They've already been awarded. You all have approved the agreement, three-party agreement between us, the state, and Brightspeed. They're doing their due diligence to move that project forward. We, of the $1 million that you all agreed to designate or set aside, if you will, from our ARPA funds, $50,000 of that was committed as a match to this project. That enabled them to get some additional, that enabled the county to get some additional scoring points from the state. So that leaves a balance of $950,000 of that money. The next step is the next program that's about to roll out is called the Complete Access to Broadband Program, or CAB. And so that program works differently from the GREAT grant program. With the CAB program, the county is the applicant. What we will do is we will go out with a request for proposals from service providers to say Edgecombe County intends to apply to the CAB program through the North Carolina Department of IT. We want to expand broadband into the county in whatever way we invite service providers to respond to a request for proposals. Ms. Bess and I have been working with the team at NCDIT. They prepare the state, they work with us to solicit proposals from these providers. They have assisted us with preparing the request for proposals, and that will go out very soon. The goal is for that to go out before the end of the month. Now, CAB is not, a ceiling amount like $4 million like the Great Grant Program. CAB, it depends on how much money the county is putting in. So with the $950,000, almost $1 million that we have set aside to contribute to CAB, the most that we can get in state funds is $2.7 million. And then the most that is allowed to be brought in by that provider is $800,000. So it's a formula they use. Again, it's very different from the Great Grant Program. So as I mentioned, we will be finalizing this request for proposals very soon and working with the team at NCDIT to put that out. The feedback that I need from you tonight is you see what's going to be covered with the Great Grant Program. What I need to know is we can do this one of two ways. When we put this request for proposals, we can say Edgecombe County has designated that we want to expand broadband to a particular area of the county. We want proposals submitted that will help us take this CAB money, county investment, and help us to carry broadband into that designated area of the county. Or you can simply say, we want providers to come and submit a proposal to us to go into areas of the county that are either unserved or underserved. Bring us back your best proposal, knowing that most that you can get from the county is $950, $2.7 from the state. Give us your best proposal on what you would recommend us to do. So there are two different ways that we can do that. There are lots of, areas, as you know, north of us here, northern quadrant of the county, eastern quadrant of the county, still some enclaves there, very southernmost part of the county, southwest, below Rocky Mount, out towards 43 in that area. There's still some patches out there in the county that needs it a great deal. So I'll just stop there and see if you have any questions, first of all, or any feedback that you'd like to give us to guide.
Any feedback for the manager?
Well, I'm looking at Leggett. There's no blue line nowhere close to it. That's in the Powers area. Over here, the speed, nothing. Going up toward that way. Down here to Macclesfield, old spot, lots of lines up here to Nita. Didn't Tarboro do something? How is that, the company they brought in, how is that gonna work with Brightspeed?
So the company is Infinity Link, thank you. They have built out a structure within the town limits of Tarboro, and so now they will be a competitor with Brightspeed. So, now in Tarboro you have Infinity Link, Brightspeed, and I guess suddenly still. So it brings competition to the town of Tarboro. I'm not aware that Infinity Link is looking at broadening outside of the area of Tarboro. They did apply for Great Grant funds, but they were not awarded. Brightspeed received the award. I do want to point out what's not captured here is also there's another company, Locality Networks, that, as you know, bought out the system that was in Pine Tops and started growing from that. They are covering some of it, sort of intertwines in between some of those blue lines that you'll see there from Brightspeed. That's not captured here. They're doing that totally without any state or local funding. They're just building as a business model out. So they're covering some areas. Whichever service provider is with us is awarded, they cannot use that money to take it to a house that's already being served. Okay. That has it available, whether they use
I think we need to look at unserved and underserved. I think those are the areas that we need to to get broadband to.
Okay.
I'm not pleased with the service that Brightspeed is giving.
Okay.
They
Now, have you changed to fiber?
Hmm?
I've changed to Brightspeed fiber, and I left Optimum, went to Brightspeed fiber, and it's been a total difference.
Brightspeed.
From regular Brightspeed to Brightspeed fiber. It's made the
That's what
difference.
this project is. It's all
Yeah.
fiber. It's not cable anymore, it's fiber.
Would there be,
Yeah, a lot better.
Not better.
I have to go to them.
I think I put on the table in terms of what, the way Mr. Evans need to probably consider rebidding. Any other thoughts from the board in terms of any different?
Well, I don't have a difference, but I think that we all know, sitting in this room, that the service is selected based on the number of houses in the area. And if we're gonna try to serve underserved or whatever, we still need to find the most populated areas to begin, so we can get the biggest bang for our buck and get the most people served. And there's no fair way to do it. That's just not-
And I don't disagree with it in terms of, they need a customer base.
I don't know where that area is.
They need a customer base
Exactly.
there, but it still needs to be, where we find the most underserved and unserved.
And I agree with that. I'm
We don't need
just
to
saying-
just put it out there, it's nothing to serve.
No, we can't serve 10 houses in a 5-mile area.
But,
So we need to find an area that is as well populated as possible in order to get the most for our money.
Which
And
is-
hopefully it'll move on sooner or later from that point, but you gotta start somewhere.
which is something that I can't sit here and tell you where it is.
I can't either.
Okay, so,
We're gonna have
so
to get on the
I
manager.
think, you're right, I think it's, something needs to be brought to us, to help us, determine where we think we ought to put it, but I do think it ought to be in those areas. I think you all that are dealing with it can probably do a better job of bringing that suggestion to us in terms of where it's best for us to spend this money to get the biggest bang for the buck. And the more people that don't have access to it can get access to it.
Yes, sir. And we can construct the RFP to say that.
Right there.
We will also add into that and met with some of our staff members just last week to list what we call, critical facilities, things that even some of our facilities, for example, our EMS station up on Seven Bridges Road has spotty coverage, as best as amens back there. That's critical for us.
And all of those need to be,
Will be factored in.
be factored into where we put it, okay?
Okay. All right, I think we got the direction that we need. Thank you for that. And the next thing, proposed alternate site for cell tower. I'm going to let Mr. Peters bring you up to speed on that. You'll see that there's a copy of a couple of maps in your agenda packet there. One is a broader view to show the county's property that we're looking at, and one is a closer view to show the proposed layout for that.
Sure. If you recall, back in November, you considered a proposed lease with City Switch to locate a cell tower at the intersection of Kingsborough Road and CSX Railroad. And at that time, there were some concerns raised by chiefly Edgecombe Martin because of its proximity to their substation there. It was also, close to the county's water tower, and there were some concerns raised about its proximity to the economic development track across Kingsborough Road. And, at that time, you decided to not enter into that lease. So since then, staff and I have been working with representatives from City Switch to determine if there were any alternative locations that would work better for the tower and for the county. They're still interested in the tower in the general area. So the second to last page of your agenda packet is the outline of from the tax map. It's the light blue outline in the middle of the page is the tax parcel that we're discussing. This is the proposed location. The darker blue line running diagonally, that's US 64, the new US 64. And then it's hard to tell, but the railroad bisects 64 and runs just north of this parcel. And for more reference, that sort of disturbed, larger tract north of this parcel is the former Triangle Tower site. So this is just south of Triangle Tower. This is a 20-acre tract that was part of the property that the county purchased when it purchased the Triangle Tower property in 2018. It was required to be included in that purchase, but it's a unique tract in that it's relatively small, 20 acres, and it's set off, it's sort of landlocked between the railroad and the highway, so it is farmed by the county currently, but really doesn't have any future developmental purpose. So the factors that, staff and I and City Switch considered were the location, obviously, that the proposed tower would be not next to Edgecombe Martin infrastructure. It would not be next to adjoining other development. So this tower, the last page in your agenda packet is a diagram of the approximate location of the tower on that parcel. And you'll see that it's set back. The tower height, as you may remember, was proposed to be 250 feet. So this location would be more than at least 250 feet from any property line. So, even if in the unlikely event the tower did fall, it would not affect any other property. It's hard to tell on this map, but just to the east of this proposed location, there's a UNC TV broadcast tower, and if you drive down 64, you can actually see the broadcast tower. So we felt like, the staff and I and City Switch felt like this was a more suitable location, and that it was fairly isolated. It was on a parcel that was not generally suitable for economic development, and it was, consistent with the current development of the area with the existing TV tower. We did, of course, to be cautious, consult with Edgecombe Martin, and Edgecombe Martin agreed that it did not have any issues with this proposed location. We also consulted with Carolina Scatway Partnership, and they, agreed that there were, no issues with this location. At this point of the process, this is simply proposing this location for your consideration. There's no lease on the table. If it's something that the board wants to pursue, then City Switch will, at that time, do more due diligence on its end, and eventually will present a, more technical diagram of the tower and at least for your consideration. I do want to point out that Nicholas Steinhaus is an attorney who represents City Switch. He's here tonight. He's driven a long way, so I'm sure he'll be happy to answer any questions or address any concerns you may have from that point of view.
I could have had you gone, man. Okay. Based on our staff's presentation, would it appear that any of you have any objections?
Well, our objections to the last ones, and you
Came
said
from.
about all of those, so
Came from,
we're good. Yeah.
it appears that we're good now. Okay. Yeah, we don't know what objections we would get when it's put on the table. It appears there's nobody around it to object. Okay. But based on what I'm hearing, it appears that we can move. You can move forward with, have them move forward with whatever the proposal will be. Did you want to? Did you need to say anything to us?
I don't need to say anything. I'm here in case I need to.
Okay.
But I don't want to take up any of y'all's time.
Well,
I'm just here to respond if necessary.
Any questions from the board? Anything else from Mr. Peters or?
Just appreciate your due diligence in bringing that proposal and making sure that everyone was aware before it came to us.
It appears that we can move forward.
So what we'll do.
You do what you need to do.
Okay. City Switch will do more due diligence, and eventually we'll bring you a more technical diagram and a lease for your consideration in the next couple of months.
Sounds good. Thank you.
We'll be back then.
Thank you now.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could I notice, not on the agenda, I do want to remind you, you did ask me to pull together a group of people to look at the Charters of Freedom.
Right.
So I'll be meeting with that group before your next meeting, come back with a recommendation.
Sounds good. Anything else?
That's it from me, sir.
Anything from commissioners?
I just wanted to say that I did attend my first Trillion meeting, advisory board meeting. Saw a lot of people I know that's in the commissioners board, and it's interesting how the advisory and the governing board, I mean, the advisory board doesn't really make final decisions. It all goes to the governing board. But at least now we have a seat on the advisory board to at least send our opinion to the governing board.
They gave us something.
They gave us something. And a couple of other counties were there who had been trying to get something as well. I also attended the risk management regional meeting, and I was able to give our manager a possible proposal, how much it's going to cost us for our liability and property, as well as our workman's comp. So that was good.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just something for us to explore. I've had several conversations with members at Farm Bureau that would like to do a breakfast with commissioners and invited all of us. So if we could start the conversation, they wanted to talk about what they do and kind of express some concerns. We've heard from several farmers in the last couple of meetings, so.
Do it as soon as possible.
I had already spoken
Do it as,
with Mr. Evans about that.
we'll have no, do it as soon as possible.
I gave my name to reach out to and see exactly what they desired and where and when and all the things that's necessary, so.
It'd have to be, if all of us there, it'd have to be an open meeting.
Yes, sir.
I got one other thing.
Go ahead.
I've been thinking about it since last month, and my question to all the 7 of us is, why do we spend our time on the UDO and then come into a meeting and change it? And, you know, I'm not arguing for or against anybody. I'm just simply saying, we changed a 100-foot lot to an 80-foot lot, and that really sounds okay, because that's a lot of space, and then we changed one down to 50-foot. And you can go back and look at all the particulars, but again, I question why we have to go back and change a UDO when we've had a board that already has worked on it, participated in everything about it, and come back with what they think is fair. And, you know, economic conditions change all the time. As you heard the man tonight, housing costs are dropping. And that was one of the pleas, that we can get another lot here, or whatever, less size than a lot, which also puts more people in a smaller space also. It doesn't. And contrary to what they said, it does, the density does change when you put people on smaller lots, as well as having more houses, which sounds great on the surface. But the thing that I really thought about, and my final spiel is this: why do we keep changing something when we just bought it? That's all I got to say.
Well, we changed it. I guess we followed the advice of our advisory board. In that instance, okay. In that instance, it's not something necessary that we had to do. But I think your comments would have been in order, and probably been given consideration at the meeting that we did that in. At least that we always think about the comments that have been made by our commissioners. But you know, my thought process was similar to yours. But I think my consideration is that we need affordable housing, and we need housing, and we have to attract. We do what we need to do if we think we can attract people to build in our county, and that was one of the considerations that I did. My thoughts were somewhat like yours, but I know one board that I served on, there were UDO amendments at every meeting. We can amend anything we want to, if we as a board think we should do it, and it would improve whatever the intent of the UDO was. And I think that was my thought process in making that and doing that.
And that's why I'm not questioning it, but we have a planning board, and part of the reason we have a planning board is to listen to, hopefully that they've gone through everything and presented it to us, and that's why I asked, it was a unanimous decision from that board that we had to consider. And as I said, about putting a lot of people in a small place was the same kind of thing that you asked there.
And you know, we can always amend back. So, any other comments from commissioners?
One thing I did meant to remind you again, I'd asked, we need an update on our Human Relations Commission. They have been out of commission for quite some time, and I need to find out the people who are on the board. We need to reorganize or find new members or what, but we need to get that commission back up and running. No need to have the name on the books if we're not going to do what it's supposed to do.
Sure. I'll reach out to the chairman of that. express that, share that.
Mr. Reeves, I
Go ahead.
have one question, Mr. Evans. In regards to our county employees that retire, do the commissioners happen to get, or do you have a list of, let me back up. My point is, anyone that is given of their life and retires to this county, I would like for this board to give them recognition.
Okay.
Now, I know you do a great job in your capacity in thanking them, but it would be nice if the board could see a list on a monthly basis of who was retiring and the capacity that they had served.
I think that's a great idea. Would you like to invite them to the meeting to
I would
recognize
love-
them?
I would love to, certainly not mandate any such thing, but I truly believe they need to be recognized.
I agree. That's a good suggestion. Thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners? Hearing none?
No, sir.
I need to ask you. Okay. Smart,
surprised you
man.
one day.
Smart. I gotta ask you. Okay, smart. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we're scheduled to go into a closed session to discuss economic development. We'd like to thank all of you for coming. We've had a little longer meeting tonight than we usually, but thank you for coming, okay? All in favor? Did I get a motion? Motion?
Votes on different ones.
We on?
Yes, sir.
Is anything coming in open session?
Nothing else from staff, Mr. Chairman.
Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn? All, question? All in favor, let it be known by vote, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, we shall stand adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you.